Hey everybody, welcome to the Nom Talk Network. Today we have an episode of, Nom Talk Review, where we will be reviewing our favorite movies while we binge eat our favorite snacks and favorite drinks. I, unfortunately, today have neither, so I will be leaving it up to my guests today to be sharing what they're going to be having. Today we're going to be talking about Spaceballs. That's right, the Mel Brooks classic. Today is finally 35 years old. What a good, awesome year to be. And I remember this movie, I think I was introduced to this movie, I feel kind of the way that most of you guys probably did, which was they showed it on TV. This was one of the few movies that, one of the few Mel Brooks movies that they showed a lot on TV. And obviously it was edited for content and stuff. But even then, it was, you basically kind of didn't really get a watered down version. You had a lot of the jokes still intact. It was still a great time. I remember this was right around the time that I started getting hooked on Star Wars as a kid, and right around that time, of course, then they were re-releasing the Star Wars movies, and then they were also showing the Spaceballs movies because of it. And every time I caught it on TV, I absolutely loved it. But enough about me. Let's get to our guests. I am joined today by Alejandro. You might recognize him. He's usually our host of these shows, but today we'll be taking the reins. We are also joined by Amanda Yollin, and also all the way from the East Coast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have Cait. And let's find out what you guys are binging on. And Alejandro, let's start with you.
Oh man, so I'm happy to be here. I like little shameless Coke, and definitely some homemade chicken and ramen noodles that I have here, nomming on here. So I'm excited to be munching on that. I'm hyped about this, man. Little insert, won't be too long on this, but funny fact about me. I love Star Wars a lot, but I actually saw Spaceballs first, and I didn't see Star Wars before. So I literally one of those moments where my friends were chilling in the basement watching TV, like, hey, check this movie out. And I was like, what is this? And I was just enamored by it. And my dad thought it was hilarious. And then after I watched that, I started watching Star Wars. So I'm ready to talk about it, man. I got some sentimental value to this movie. So I'm hyped.
Awesome. Cait, what about you? What are you sharing with us? What are you munching on today or drinking?
Okay, so I hit the Asian market before coming here today. So I got some mochi. I got these cookies. I have some Cheetos, and I also have some local ciders.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. I am actually jealous of all of the things. You are winning so far right now.
I'm jealous.
Amanda, how about you?
I'm a little sick, so I am nomming on cough drops and tea.
Oh no! Well, maybe this is a shout out we can get for lozenges, or your favorite lozenge. Shout those out. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us, all of you. Thank you so much for being here, and also for those of you who are in the chat joining us live. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. But yeah, let's get on with this Nom Talk review. So I'm going to give this a rating. So before we go on, we give this usually a rating of popcorn. It's usually, on any number of popcorns, but usually out of 5 buckets of popcorn to determine how we feel about the movie. 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, sometimes even 0 being the lowest. So I'm going to go around the circle, and I'll start off ahead by saying that I will give this movie a solid, 4 out of 5 as far as, comedy movies goes. I will give it a 4 out of 5. I think it's, it caught me at a very young and impressionable age. The humor was, I just think is fantastic. I think it's extremely well written. Just everything that it encapsulates. It makes fun of everything. It makes fun of Star Wars, Star Trek, even the really, really horrible science fiction movies that came before them. All that stuff, I think, is absolutely phenomenal. Even with that being said, I know that there are certain Mel Brooks projects that are in the works right now. Like, I'm seriously hoping that maybe that we could possibly even get Spaceballs 2, The Quest for More Money. Amanda, how about you? What would you give this rating?
I think I saw Spaceballs when it first came out. My dad worked at Fox at the time. And I have always been a Mel Brooks fan, and I would give this a solid 5 out of 5. Like, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Gotcha. Cait, how about you?
I'm probably gonna go with like a 4.5 out of 5. Just because it's so clever, it's hilarious. Like, it just references so many things, and it's just goofy. I love it.
Absolutely, I totally feel that. Alejandro, how about you? What's your popcorn rating gonna be?
It's gonna have to be 5 out of 5. This is my introduction to Mel Brooks, John Candy, and Rick Moranis. Man, I like it, and now I think about it, I wasn't that young going, oh, these guys, let me write these names down. No, it was just how I was introduced to them. Movie I didn't expect to be introduced this way, and it kind of not only introduced to that trio of that trifecta of like awesomeness of gentlemen, and I guess I would say like whatever their artwork or career was, but also introduced me to Star Wars. So once again, yeah, definitely 5 out of 5.
Awesome. You know what? The way that I hear people talk about this movie, I'm feeling like by the end of this, I'm probably going to end up feeling the same way. I'm probably going to end up feeling like I'm probably going to end up getting it going from 4, probably 5, because I personally, my favorite Mel Brooks movie actually happens to be Young Frankenstein, and I give that one a 5 out of 5 for sure. But enough about that. Let's talk about this movie, because the story. Let's start with the story. Like, it's ultra campy. Once upon a time warp. Like, isn't that what the opening line is?
Yeah.
The opening dialogue. Like, and we get the scroll. We have us say episode 11. Like, it's hilarious. Like, it's basically jabbing at everybody already right out the gate. It has the ultra long shot of the ship. Like, it's
never-ending
ship. Like, I think make a joke about that by the end of it. I know near the end of it, Mel Brooks is out of breath. He's like, I had to move the whole thing. If I watched, the movie would be over. And even with that being said, oh my gosh, the movie within the movie moment, where they actually researched the movie with the VHS tape. It's like, the jokes about this were just phenomenal. The where they capture the stunt double. It's oh wow. I mean, I'm already talking about this, and I'm already feeling like I'm going to change my rating by the end of this. But yeah, I actually thought the story was, it was campy, but also extremely, extremely simple to follow. But it was one of those stories that we all kind of, in a weird way, like, could see ourselves in, and. It was almost like one of those adventures that you end up having in the backyard with your friends when you're trying to pretend to be Star Wars characters in that galaxy, and there's kind of like this crazy, like fun time in your family's RV, or something like that. Something like these things.
The space Winnebago.
The space Winnebago. Like, all this stuff, I feel like is like perfect, and I think it almost feels like an adventure that you concoct in your own backyard. I feel like it's something very wholesome. It's a very wholesome movie, and I absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
Cait, what do you say about the story? How do you feel about the story? Like, what are your opinions on that?
Like, the story is just like you said, it's really simple to follow, but at the same time, and like, it's it's really creative because it doesn't take itself seriously at all, and it's just jabbing at everything within the science fiction genre, and then some. Like, because it also has is making fun of just like fairy tales at the same time, like the whole like princess having to marry a prince that she really doesn't want to. Yeah, it's just the story itself is just so much fun.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree.
So my mom is actually watching this right now, and I just got a text from her because I mentioned that my dad worked for Fox. My mom went, "Your mother launched the home video."
Oh.
So I guess, yeah, my parents worked in entertainment. So my mom was in cool. PR. So yeah. That's
awesome. That is actually really cool. So that means she helped put that VHS tape in the movie. No, I'm kidding. I know she did.
Oh, that I was also I do appreciate that it has like the whole movie within a movie aspect, that they're just actively watching their own movie as it's happening, and they're completely aware of it at the same time.
Well, absolutely. I kind of, in a weird way, it kind of, like it actually, in a weird way, kind of predicted what ended up happening with video on demand with movies. Like, in a weird way. The movie is out at home before it's even left theaters. Before it's even in the theaters, it's at home. It's kind of weird how it kind of predicted that in a weird way.
Oh, and then just like the whole like movie within a movie almost makes it immersive.
Oh yeah,
like you're in there with them. It's like it's kind of hard to just the level of that you don't really get in movies.
Absolutely, no, I totally feel that. Amanda, how do you feel about that story? The Spaceballs story, chapter 11. How do you feel?
I mean, it's everything Mel Brooks is. This was not his first parody film. And when he decided he was going to make this movie, he realized that he hadn't yet parodied space. Obviously, he did Westerns with Blazing Saddle. He did horror with Young Frankenstein. He made a movie called Silent Movie. And then with the explosion of Star Wars, because this came out in 1987, it was kind of the thing to do. Interestingly enough, Brooks foreshadowed this movie at the end of History of the World Part 1, which came out in 1981, with the ending joke of the movie saying that the sequel would be titled Jews in Space, which in fact it was.
That man is a comedic
genius.
Like, my gosh, like absolutely, like 100%. There's absolutely no denying that the impact that he's had on the genre as a whole. Alejandro, how do you feel about the story of Spaceballs?
It's amazing, and ironically, it foreshadows a lot of things in the sci-fi culture. I mean, if you think about it, a couple of jokes. Amanda, you just reminded me of a joke that goes on, saying the Jewish space odyssey in a sense. But they mentioned in regards to it, and they're in the Winnebago, it's Barf and his cohort there, and he's like, I'm a Jewish prince, and they all look at each other and look at the camera. He's like, that's funny. You don't look Jewish. So it's just this, it's a slapstick comedy concepts and its approach. It introduced me to a lot of these jokes, and it was just hilarious in a sense. But also, if you think about it too, there was a joke they mentioned in regards to one of the, I believe it was like the equivalent to the Empire workers on the ship. And the guy's like, who is that worker? And he goes, he's an asshole, sir. And he goes, I know, but who is he? He's like, no, it's Joseph A. Asshole. And he's like, oh. He goes, how many assholes do we have working for us? And everybody raises their hands like, oh, we're all assholes. And to me, that kind of reflects to me like the Clone Wars. Like everybody was a clone. Like to me, in a sense, they would all have the same last name, So I understand it wasn't exactly that, but kind of foreshadowed the Clone Wars in a sense with that. But like the comedy, the way they did it, Cait, you mentioned earlier, breaking that third wall. I mean, being able to break that third wall multiple times. I mean, you have Rick Moranis doing his slapstick comedy, as Dark Helmet, and it's just fantastic. There's little, raunchy nuances saying here to the simple, dad jokes. But just the storyline to me was out there at that time being, and I understood that you guys said that this was made shortly after Star Wars and its release. Or around that, years in that year time frame afterwards. I didn't know what Star Wars was, but I felt like I could follow the storyline. To me, it was enough of like, oh, this is hilarious. This is this person. This is this person. From Pizza the Hut. I had no idea it was a replica of Jabba the Hutt, but it's a big pizza blob-like creature on there, and I just understood that was disgusting, weird, and funny. But it's just one of those things. Him being in the mob world. So in short, it introduced me to a lot of different comedies and comedic relief style deliveries in the entertainment world. So I definitely dig the storyline from the get-go.
Oh, absolutely. I also, it seems like we've got a cue ball in the comments. He says, hey, y'all, to me, the movie is a 5 out of 5. The cast was good and it was hilarious. Mel Brooks is a genius. Things like that words going to be thrown around a lot tonight. Genius in writing and directing the movie. And Rick Moranis was so hilarious as the Lord Helmet character. We've also got PR Jane. I need more Spaceballs.
That's my mother.
Totally oh no! I think I just dropped something. There we go. I'm back. All right. You know what? I 100% agree. I feel like this there's a lot of this, like the cast, like, in fact, you just mentioned Rick Moranis. Let's go with the cast. Like, the cast is great. We've got John Candy, the legendary John Candy. He was phenomenal. This was my first introduction to, I feel like, a lot of these actors. The only one that I had only known before that was Rick Moranis. That's because as a kid I watched the Honey and Shrunk the Blake series. But so to see, but ultimately, of course, if we like around the time that was one going on, I had just seen Independence Day as well. So we got to see Bill Pullman being the world's greatest American president to ever be living in film. He's being another hero. It was just so weird seeing him being like this ultra serious action star role to suddenly being in this very funny movie.
Bill Pullman was not the first choice for Lone Star. And I think he was, in fact, the fifth.
Wow.
Both Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks were offered the role and turned it down. Tom Berenger was also considered for the role. And Brooks' first choice was James Caan, who was struggling with addiction at the time and deemed too expensive to insure on set.
Oh, wow. The thing is, every single one of those is... wow, every single one of those would have been really good. It's hard to see Tom Cruise possibly today doing a movie like that, but actually. Oh,
but look at Tropic Thunder.
I know. I think, but now that as the words came out of my mouth, I was thinking, no, Tropic Thunder. But no, that is so funny. I can't believe, wow, that would be such an interesting Tom Cruise as Lone Star actually would have been. Great, actually.
More in the multiverse.
I know, somewhere in the multiverse. He's both Lone Star and he's Iron Man somewhere.
I just think that now knowing that that he was not the first choice, that he was the fifth, that really kind of enhances the character. I'm just picturing Mel Brooks having a list of names and they're all scratched out and then kind of I guess. We'll call Bill's agent.
So I finished reading the Mel Brooks autobiography very, very recently, and there's so much in there about his life, and every chapter is a project. And there was so much about Spaceballs. It was actually probably the largest chapter in the book, aside from the producers. And so I pulled out all these very interesting facts for the chat tonight.
Oh, no, I'm so excited. I'm really glad that you're actually sharing these anecdotes. I remember when our producer mentioned it to us that you had this information. I thought that was fantastic because, I feel like when we know so much about these other science fiction films, but then of course there's this science fiction film. I don't feel like a lot of people get to know a whole lot. The really cool anecdotes about it. So I think you have so much to share with us. I'm actually really excited to hear all of that.
I'm going to throw this one at you. It took Mel Brooks about 6 months to write the script for this movie, which was originally titled Planet Moron. And apparently there was some British science fiction spoof called Morons from Outer Space. And so he needed to change the name. Him and his production team decided to go through letters of the alphabet to find another word to add space for the title. And apparently Mel Brooks knocked over a drink and went balls. And his production guy went Spaceballs, and that's how the title came to be. Also, the ball-shaped helmet.
Oh my gosh! It's like all right. Meeting adjourned. We were planning on going to this till at least 5. But we want to play Tenasta. Oh my gosh! I would. That is actually really interesting to find out that that Bill was the 5th person in line. That's how. Does he know that?
Well, he does now.
He does now for sure. My gosh. Oh my God.
Here's a really interesting anecdote. So you guys know who R.L. Stine is?
Yes.
Writer of Goosebumps. So there's actually a novelization of the movie written by R.L. Stine under the name Jovial Bob Stine. And some of the facts that weren't in the movie that were in the story is the name of the dinks. They were Rinky Dink, Blinky Dink, Stinky Dink, Pinky Dink, Finky Dink, and Winky Dink. R.L. Stine also contributed to an interaction between Barf and Yogurt at the Desert Temple. Barf asks Yogurt if he was the leader of the Red Eye Knights and the possessor of the Force. Yogurt replies that it wasn't him, but Alex Guinness, otherwise known as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Gnarly.
Oh my god! Like
that's so cool.
I was just looking at. We found out the cue ball was a T mentions that I just had it in front of me, and here we go. He PR Jane actually your mom actually mentioned that Ronnie Graham was the priest, and is it JMJ Bullock is the prince, the one that keeps falling asleep? I think that's actually hilarious. By the way,
Prince Valium.
Prince Valium, yes. And we also have Cue Ball talking about how his favorite moment was when they talk about the big combs in the sand. We can't see shit. That was a great.
That was like a shameless plug by the company as well. They were sponsored. They come Ace. They were like, we're down. I mean, the advertisement of like things in here was like, no joke. Sure, okay.
I know. You know, I think it's also hilarious that the Spaceballs, the coloring book, is actually a Transformers coloring book. Like now with Blu-ray, you can totally see that it's Optimus Prime on that cover.
Hey, those were legitimate bed sheets, though. The Spaceball bed sheets that the president was doing a little shimmy in. Yeah, those were legitimate.
I would say though, if they actually released all of those items, the Spaceballs and the blanks,
go buy them.
They would sell.
Producer Steph would kill me, but I'd buy him.
This actually brings me to another story. So Mel Brooks actually went to George Lucas to get approval to make this film. And George Lucas was currently working on Howard the Duck. He apparently liked the jokey nature of the film so much that he gave Mel Brooks permission to parody any and all things related to Star Wars with one condition. The fair use agreement basically said that no merchandise of any kind could be made of the film. And to date, none has. So the underlying joke of Yogurt's merchandising empire exaggerates, that it's also the reason we're never going to get Spaceballs, the flamethrower.
Oh my gosh. That is actually crazy. And he does say though, like, that, all the movie is in the movie, everyone knows that the movie really makes money in merchandising. And that's actually 100% true. Like, and it's weird that you say that George Lucas didn't have that agreement, because George Lucas actually, when he made an agreement with the studios to make Star Wars, he said, if I can have all the rights and control every aspect of the toys and the merchandise that gets made for Star Wars, you guys can keep all the essentially majority of the rights, I think.
Yeah, George Lucas basically invented merchandising, because that really wasn't anything that had ever been done before.
Yeah. It's insane what he did with that. Like, he had so much money for that.
It's interesting though, because Brooks also went to ILM, or Industrial Light Magic, and booked about $5 million worth of post-production work in order to kind of continue the relationship between him and George Lucas. So Industrial Light Magic constructed the puppet chest burster from the film. They supplied the escape pod launch sequence clip, as it was actually an unused clip from Star Wars. Another
really?
effect. Another effect unit was used for the film as well, Apogee Inc., which was headed by John Dykstra and split from ILM in 1978 when Lucasfilm moved to a different portion of the U.S. So Spaceballs was the first time that the Star Wars special effects crew actually got to reunite on a movie project.
That's cool.
That is actually really cool. The chest burst, you just reminded me how John Hurt comes back to reprise his role. Oh no, not again. So good.
So this is kind of back like the merchandising, but one of the things I saw recently, and obviously this is not official merch, but it still made me laugh. is a friend of mine has Spaceballs, the face mask.
I've seen those.
Nice.
Not official merchandise, though.
Not official. It's not official.
Obviously,
one more Star Wars tie-in is there's an actual spaceship cameo. If you look at the exterior shot of the diner, there is in fact a Millennium Falcon sitting parked outside.
How did I not see that?
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
Yeah, that was actually one of the first things I remember, even on the TV broadcast versions of it, even when it's not in widescreen, they still somehow are able to keep a portion of that Millennium Falcon in the shot. And I remember as a kid, I was like, oh, it's Star Wars shot.
I remember wondering if we would actually see like Han and Chewie like just in passing. Like I remember
eating in the diner.
with that,
the bag.
Like breaking the rules.
See, technically, they foreshadowed, Fox Studios and Disney Studios collaborating on one thing, aliens and Star Wars. Look at that! I'm telling you, this movie's just a fortune teller.
Yeah, I mean, Disney did acquire Fox, didn't they?
Exactly. As I'm saying, hint,
Okay,
everything.
Yeah. I thought they bought
1,000%.
Disney Clean ID Infinity Stones.
Oh, absolutely, like for sure. And Disney has kind of, essentially like just taken control of everyone. They're basically they are real life Spaceballs. They're just taking everything, taking it for their own.
See, now I want to see a baby yogurt, instead of a baby Yoda. Maybe we can have like maybe we can branch off, like to break an agreement. It's a different story now, So.
And the Mandalorian is just a guy with a bucket on his head. He just can't. His whole story is that he says that the real reason why he can't take off the helmet is because I have a vow to never show my face. But no, what it is that
I've got a horrible mustache.
The kid, as a kid, he put on the bucket, but as he grew older, his skull just grew into the bucket. So now he's just stuck in the bucket.
We gotta get them to make something. We gotta make something. And like, can we please be part of this universe? It's funny enough.
My God.
Oh God, can you imagine this? I feel like it's like I said. Now we know if we ever see somebody that has a story like that come out, we know who started it first. It originated here. Okay, yes. We came up with that first.
Started from the time.
By the way, so obviously Mel Brooks played 2 roles in that movie.
Oh,
do you know why President Scrooge's name is President Scrooge?
It's Brooks backwards.
That's so simple, but that's great. That's great.
He also apparently got Scrooge is Brooks backwards. He also apparently got a really heinous rash on his face from all the gold makeup, and was in pain from walking around on his knees for yogurt.
Oh gosh, but I hope Mel Brooks knows that it was all worth it. That we actually 100 how beloved this film is, and how I hope it was worth. It was worth it in the end. I hope he feels that way, because we certainly, we're 4 people here talking about how much we love this film, and we, and at least there's who knows, countless other people who love this movie as well. So the fact that
you have to go read his book. It's brilliant.
I actually have. Like, what was it called again?
I think it's called All About Me. Yeah. And it really it's very sectionalized, birth to this, and then he did the Sid Caesar Comedy Hour, and then from that he got into something else, and then started making his movies. And it's interesting, one of my favorite anecdotes from the book that keeps repeating every time he does a film is that after he would finish the film, before the studio officially was okay, we're putting it in theaters, he would always have to sit down with the people who gave him money, and they'd be okay, you need to cut this and this and this, and he would go okay, and then never did it. There were a bunch of scenes from Blazing Saddles that they wanted cut. There was a lot from this movie they wanted cut, and Mel was just okay, anytime they tell you to cut something, you just say okay and don't do it.
They would have caught on after a couple times. They've been hey guys, he says he's gonna cut it, he's not.
You know, when money rolls in after the fact, like they don't really come back at you for those things.
That's true.
This was actually his most expensive movie. I believe that this one cost something like $25 million to make, which 1980s.
Yeah, it's nuts. So that's like equivalent today of what? I mean, like that's close to like just a little, what's like 100 or so mil now, equivalent to what, how much money you need to do and the production value and so forth. But that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, the man holds records for sure. The producers, by the way, on Broadway is to date the highest awarded show ever. I believe they won 18 Tonys when the producers first released. Hamilton, I think, only has 14.
Jeez.
So
what you're saying is Hitler beats Alexander Hamilton.
I didn't say that.
Elizabeth.
Oh my God.
And Adolf Elizabeth.
But I mean, how do you beat Springtime for Hitler? Like,
but hold on. Like, here's the crazy, because you did mention, it's like an estimated $22.7 million on the budget, right? But ultimately, it grossed around 38.3 mil, right, in the United States. But it only fell short $6 million on the opening weekend to Dragnet. And that was a very, very popular comedy. I mean, Dragnet was just one of those things where at the time the crowd, you heard Dragnet, it's going to be funny, the cast and everything of it. So for it to actually make that much money still, on opening weekend with that kind of heavy hitter of a comedic competitor was not bad at all. I had no idea until you mentioned. I had to look it up. That's nuts.
Yeah. Actually, what's weird about that also is that Dragnet, the movie, wasn't even... Actually, the reason why it made so much money in the opening weekend was because of the TV show of the same name. But what was crazy was that show was meant to be like serious. So when this TV movie came out and it was a comedy, like I remember my dad was saying that people were kind of like pissed about it because like they even made like a stupid joke where it's like, "Thank God it's Friday," when Friday saves the day. Like it's like they said it was really.
And then did you remember Get Smart, which was kind of a parody of Dragnet? Which I didn't know was also written by Mel Brooks.
That would explain the reason why I liked a lot of that comedic style that came from there. That makes a lot of sense. And just to follow up on what you and Kenji were saying a little earlier. So evidently, Moranis claimed in 2013 that he and Brooks had discussed a potential sequel, with Moranis pitching the title Spaceball 3, The Search for Spaceballs 2. However, he and Brooks were unable to structure a deal that would allow the project to move forward. So evidently, February 2015, Brooks said that he would like to make a sequel to be released after the next Star Wars film, and hopes Moranis would reprise his role. So evidently, Moranis and Brooks were constantly pitching it to the studios, and they would get agreement from the studios, but Moranis or Brooks wouldn't be available. So evidently there's been some thumbs up, and but but I mean, that'd be nice to have that a continuation in a form, you know what I mean? So
absolutely. I mean, and to be honest, I feel like the world needs a renaissance of Rick Moranis. I mean, obviously, what happened with his family, it's very, very tragic, and it's completely understandable why someone would want to spend more time with their family because of it. But with that said, though, I am also very, very excited if he actually did come back. Like, seriously, like if I saw Rick Moranis on TV, on a movie again, I would like, legitimately, I would lose it. I would lose myself.
Did you guys ever watch The Goldbergs?
Yes.
Oh my God, dude. Moranis vocally reprises his role as Dark Helmet from the episode of like Spaceballs. So they allow the Spaceballs to have a tribute with Rick Moranis and everything, all approved and everything, to actually reprise his role. It was really cool.
Yeah, I believe that Bernie lent his costume to the studio.
What?
Because Bernie has a full screen accurate Dark Helmet costume.
That
I believe he
adult man would have a gorgeous thing like that. He would, yes.
So, if they were to do, like, cause it's that, it's like, all the complicated studio stuff, like, that's keeping them from making like more Spaceball installments. But I think what would be really hilarious is if they made it like on zero budget, like and unofficially, because like I know, like I think it was the cast of The Princess Bride remade The Princess Bride over quarantine from like basically
Yeah.
so I think it would be hilarious if like a group of, you know, obviously not all the actors are still alive, rest in peace, John Candy and Joan Rivers, but if like they could get people and just kind of do something like that where it's more for fun than anything else, and everyone's just kind of doing it with what they have on hand.
Oh, absolutely. I think, and the thing is, I feel like if they put out their feelers, you know, just saying like, hey, you know, we want to do this, I'm sure that like, I mean, one, I know that these people would probably get compensated in some way, you know, just because, you know, that's, you know, just because they already have money. But like, just the fact that there's probably like, there's a pretty good chunk of people out there that probably would be more than happy to lend like whatever hours that they have to like for like a Mel Brooks project, especially if it's like for no money, especially
Heck yeah.
Like especially if it's like we're making a sequel to Spaceballs. Yeah, we can do this.
Well, I mean, you got like I'm sorry, go on, guys, sir.
But it hit its stretch goals like that.
I don't think there's a studio out there that would be like, you know what? Nah, we're not going to green like that. I think if he really was just like, all right, we're doing this, we're doing Spaceballs too, that the studios would be like, here's my money. Like,
oh, absolutely.
But he's also like 90 years old now. So,
well, I mean, with that being said, that he is still making and producing new shows now. I mean, I know that there's one coming up the pipeline right now. I'm actually not entirely sure if I'm allowed to say its title. Actually, wait, no. There are articles about it. History of the World. They're doing a continuation of it.
Yeah.
Like, so because of that, like, you know, I was just like, sometimes you have to be careful with what you say, what you find out on set. So, like, History of the World. They're doing a continuation of that. I mean, mind you, it's not just Mel Brooks. It's also, you know, Wanda Sykes, Nick Kroll. There's one more person I can't remember. But the fact is, you know, there are people out there that he clearly seems like he trusts with his brands as well. It seems like so. You know, who knows? We might be able to. I actually really am all for the idea of Spaceballs 3, the quest for the search for Spaceballs 2. I actually love that title. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm hyped for it. I mean, like Amanda, like you mentioned before, like I don't think any studios would deny it. Or I mean, Cait mentioned the fact that, you know, someone get a Kickstarter started. The only risk with that, some people, you know, things can bail out real last minute. But I mean, you got to think about it. Like, for example, history has it like Tesla Motors is a huge supporter of the concept of Spaceballs. So, for example, their company paid the rights to use ludicrous speed, plaid speed, light speed, and ridiculous speed in some of their acceleration modes that they have in some of their test models to actually go ahead and use it. I mean, if you decide to say, hey, let's do a shameless prop grab or advertisement gig and just like insert things, just, you know, Coca-Cola sponsored Pepsi, I don't care what we need to happen. Let it happen. Because I mean, that was kind of part of the cheesiness of Spaceballs in the first place, with Ace advertisement and Doritos advertisement and Micro Machines. It was just things back and forth. Even Pizza Hut was even mentioned, you know, slightly shamelessly in a sense. So I'm down for it.
Mel has a relationship with Disney too, so I can't, you know, he was in Toy Story 4. Did you know that? Both him and his best friend Carl Reiner voiced two characters in Toy Story 2. Mel's character's name was Melephant Brooks, and Carl Reiner's character was Carl Rhinoceros.
That's great.
Oh, wow. Now I have to, this is in Toy Story 4, you said?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, there's a relationship in existence. I think it's just a matter of, you know, him having to sit down and write a script.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. I understand that, you know, it gets harder as, you know, as time takes its toll on you. So
95.
Sure, yeah.
Honestly, like after Carl Reiner died, I don't know if you watched any of what the hell is his name? Seinfeld had that show on Netflix where it was like in cars drinking coffee and comedy or something. And so at one point he went and sat down with Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner who are, you know, have been best friends for 60 years or some shit. So I really didn't think that after Carl Reiner died that Mel was going to last too much longer, especially after losing his wife. But yeah, he's 95 and kicking, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. He lost his wife early in like 2000, early aughts, didn't he? Mel Brooks.
She died. Well, he was married to Anne Bancroft until she died, I believe, in 2005.
Yeah.
From 1964 to 2005.
Yeah, that's a very. I remember that when it happened. I remember being sad.
And then, you know, his son Max Brooks is the one that wrote Zombie Survival Guide.
I didn't realize that they were related. I did not realize. That's okay. Well, he's also got a great sense of humor too. I actually have read that book backwards to front, and I'm not even a big zombies fan, and I actually read that thing to completion. I think it was hilarious that he's got apple doesn't fall too far from the tree for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, gosh, I mean, you know, this. I feel like this. If we really deep dove into this movie, like even with, you know, how you with this autobiography, I feel like this movie has so many stories to tell that we, you know, just aren't privy to, like, and, you know, and thank heavens, you know, he wrote that autobiography and explained so much, because, like, I mean, I wouldn't have known that Book of Mormon was choice number 5. I mean, absolutely not. Like I think
my favorite story from the entire book was, I believe it was 2018 or 19. Mel Brooks was given the Kennedy Center honor, and he actually turned it down. It would have been Bush, but then he was offered it a year later when Obama was in office, and he gladly accepted. And so there's this great picture in the book where he and his whole family have gone to the White House and met Barack Obama and his family. And the caption under the picture is, "Man, I never realized how short the Brookses were." Because apparently the Obamas were like feet above.
That is way too funny. Oh my gosh. Like, my goodness gracious.
Fantastic.
Like, it's, I mean, that's going to be somebody that's going to be greatly missed when he finally goes as well. I mean, I don't know, like, it's, you know, I feel like, you know, everybody has that time that comes, you know, but, like, I'm really hoping we get to have Mel Brooks here as long as possible. You know, like, it seems like he's just, like, even like the little, like, videos that you see of him, like, I think it was comedians and cars getting coffee. Seinfeld visits Mel Brooks at his own place, and he's just absolutely delightful, you know, just hearing him talk and listen to him. It's just, he just seems like such a joyous and nice man. I'm really hoping that I'm just really hoping that we get to have him for as long as possible. He's, you know, he's given us Young Frankenstein. We still need more music. We need movie versions of your musical versions of your movie still, Mel. Like, we need Spaceballs the musical. Like,
oh my God, could you imagine?
I mean, I don't know if you saw it, they just announced Back to the Future, the musical. So, like, I mean, at this point, anything is possible, okay? Like,
could you imagine there being, like, an asshole song in like the Spaceballs the musical? Like, they're all, like, up and dancing and singing about being an asshole. Like, that's what just came into my head.
But you know that Mel Brooks is going to have a dance kind of like the bottle dance from Fiddler on the Roof, though, because that's something, I feel like that's where he would put in, like, the very those kinds of jokes is where he would put it.
I mean, it makes sense with the musical if you think about it. I mean, deliberately, the plot is like deliberately, you know, advocates like fairy tales the whole time with like Prince and Planet Duridia. So, I mean, you have so many things that you can, like, if you want to, like, I'd say follow each planet or go in depth with little, you know, sing song variants. You got so many references you can make to space fairy tales. That would be an excellent thing to do in the first place.
You mentioned, as actually, you're perfectly right. Like, and even that reveal at the very end that Lone Star is actually, you know, a prince that was left in front of a monastery so that he could be saved and stuff like that. Like, you know, like all that, like that would actually, you're absolutely right. That ties right into like that's like some wicked, like frozen shit that, you know, that people would eat up.
The other
No joke.
awesome about like Spaceballs the musical is that, like, I'm not sure if anyone here has ever seen Something Rotten or even Shrek the musical, how it just constantly is ripping on other musicals, but they could be totally doing that. Like I would just love to have them, like, see them do like an entire rap number, kind of following the popularity of Hamilton.
Oh, for sure.
Honestly, it doesn't even need to be Spaceballs the musical. It just needs to be Mel Brooks the musical.
Mel Brooks the musical. It's just
I want to see a musical of Blazing Saddles, though. Like,
oh, absolutely, for sure. Like I'm saying, all of his movies lend perfectly for musicals. We need those. It seems like we have a Candy in LA. What's up, Dad? Thanks so much for tuning in. My dad says, I'm merged with the producers and you've got a winning show. Springtime for Vader. You know what? That actually works. I mean, Vader is a German name. I mean, it totally works. It's totally make it happen. I mean, I would be more than happy to see that entire thing happening. Like, come on, like, think about it. Like, this springtime, now that we're talking about it, I feel like it's actually like, no. Well, let's actually break down Spaceballs the musical. like it would work so well. Like it actually would work tremendously well. Like
I can see Kenji's wheels turning right now.
I'm like, wait a minute. It intrinsically lends to itself. You can even have yourself a nice little like movie. Like you can have a nice little showdown as well. Like, oh my God, like it would. It would actually work it would really, really work. I think it would actually totally happen. Look, if Back to the Future can happen, if Back to the Future and Rocky can be musicals, then
sorry, did you say Rocky?
Rocky is a musical.
Yeah.
Like, no, I know. I thought you were saying you wanted another one, and I was like, oh, no, why?
Rocky 7. Rocky 7, Drago wins.
I will say there's some things that do not need to be made into musicals. My mom and I went to see Big Fish, the musical. Like, it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
No way.
Like,
that's
why?
So
why would you ruin a perfectly good movie?
That's actually really unfortunate to hear that movie did so badly.
I was devastated because it's another one of my like favorite movies. And there's a very core, there's like an essential message in that movie and everything. Like none of the songs made sense. None of the sets made sense. Like I had no idea. I could not for the life of me remember a single song, single line from the entire show if I had to like try and recall anything other than it was just not good.
I mean, and now I just thought about it as far as production scale goes, like we can make it ultra big. We can have one big number and then like the following, like basically almost like Spider-Man and Turn Off the Dark, like levels of like production value. And then the next scene, there is like nothing. There's
but without all the problems.
It's like what happened? What happened to all the sets? We spent all the money. What do you mean we spent all the money? Did you not see that finale we just had?
Amazing.
We spent all the money. Like, I think that would be great. Like, oh,
brilliant.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Please stay alive a little bit more. Please stay alive, Mel Brooks. We need Spaceballs the musical. We need Blazing Saddles the musical. Like, even that one also, like, I mean, people love Western musicals.
Silent right? Movie the musical.
So like, I'm thinking just like after like we ran out of money and then like the next scene they have something like, where did all this come from? Oh, we found it in the back because someone's not using it, and like it can be stuff that is from a musical that just very like famously failed, like Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. Like,
like we just used all these leftover props and shit.
Oh, somebody kickstarted us. Here's money.
Someone was very generous to get rid of all these props. And he even had somebody comes up in a spandex suit.
Mel, if you're watching, we're writing it for you.
We're literally writing this musical for you now.
Take notes. Take notes.
Oh my gosh! Like, absolutely. You know what? Like, I will say, I originally started this review process with a 4 out of 5 because, you know, I just because I prefer, I list Spaceballs second to Young Frankenstein. And Young Frankenstein is like the perfect 5 out of 5. But, you know, just talking about all this with you guys, you know what? It's reignited that love that I have for this thing. You know, I'm gonna have to put it back up to 5. It's a 5. It's a 5 out of 5 movie.
Although you may change your mind again when you read the book, because there's a lot in there about Young Frankenstein.
I'll still make it. I'm just saying it's earned that 5 now. I mean, Young Frankenstein's still going to be a 5, and probably, you know, I'm still going to put. It doesn't matter. I'd still put Young Frankenstein to above Spaceballs. But even with that said, though, I mean, even if I read that book and I find out that there's so much more about it, it's okay. It earned that 5. It earned that A. Mel Brooks can act like a proud Asian mom right now. It earned that A. You know, it got an A.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, I read memoirs constantly, and sometimes you can tell that they're kind of like ghost written, and it was like written out of an interview. But like Mel Brooks very obviously sat down at his typewriter, because I'm assuming, you know, he's 95, he's not really using a computer, and literally typed this out himself. And just, you know, at 95, if you don't write it down, you're going to lose it, I guess. But, you know, I mean, just the stories and like how one project led into another project, and how he got the cast and how he picked the people that he worked with. It's fascinating.
Gosh, I mean, I would actually love to hear about his relationship with Gene Wilder as well, because, like, I mean, he was basically in every movie that he did. So, like,
in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Gosh, well, you know what? How does everybody else feel? Like, everyone was basically already seeing 5 out of 5 anyway. So your opinions didn't change, except unless it got worse for some reason. I
think Nom Talk's gonna need to start a book review now.
Oh gosh.
Mel Brooks will be the first one. My mom apparently commented because it just popped up from Stephanie, and she said, "Stop insulting old people."
Oh man, my dad even listed a couple more songs. He said we have "If I Were a Jawa." We've got "Feelings," "Ode to the Force." Like, I mean, here's the thing: those seem like Star Wars musicals, musical songs. But I will say that Spaceballs the musical would definitely do better than Star Wars the musical, which actually does exist. There is an official Star Wars musical out there, and it is garbage. Anyways,
because the difference is that Mel Brooks would write his own versus Lucas, who's just sitting up at Skywalker Ranch counting his fucking $4 billion that he got from Disney when he sold Star Wars.
You want to make a Star Wars musical? Okay, you can make a Star Wars musical. Thank you so much. I just want to say thanks so much for joining us on People in the Stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is all the time that we have for today, unfortunately, but you can catch us on the next episode of Nom Talk. Amanda, where can we find you on the social medias?
I am on all of the social medias at Rollin Yollin, and I am a nerd, and I sometimes post weird nerd shit.
Nice. Awesome. And Cait, where can we find you on social media?
I mostly use Instagram. My personal one is Little Gummy Fish, and then my art page is caitdl.art. So that's
awesome.
And linked to other stuff from there.
Awesome. And Alejandro, where can we find you?
I have an Instagram entertainment page for content daily. It's going to be IAMCOWIE. I am Cowie. I post daily content, shenanigans, and all sorts of stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. And I am the Kenjinator. You can find me on Instagram at Kenjinator, TikTok as well. You can find me on Twitch at the Kenjinator. So I'm the other one. And also on Sundays, usually at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am along with my father, who is in the chat with me, at Cait D in LA. He is a DM for a Dungeons and Dragons campaign that I'm a part of. He's very, very good. He's a great DM. We're going to different kinds of adventures, and I basically play a Witcher. It's a warlock sort of thing. It's an Eldritch. No, I play an Eldritch Knight. That's what I play. Basically playing him as the Witcher. Tune in and join us on Sundays. With that being said, I am Kenji. Thank you so much for joining us on Nom Talk Network, and we will see you on the next one. Laters.
May the Schwartz be with you.